Part 1, The Invisible Man. Marcus Webb squeezed the mop handle tighter as another drop of cleaning solution splattered onto his worn boots. The corridors of Nexus Prime Academy stretched endlessly before him, their pristine surfaces reflecting the soft glow of bioluminescent strips that ran along the walls. To most, these halls represented the pinnacle of interstellar education. To Marcus, they were just another floor to clean. Human. You've left streaks on the viewing portal in Section 7. The voice belonged to Kethren, a particularly arrogant student from the Zephyrian Empire. His crystalline skin caught the light as he gestured dramatically toward the massive window overlooking the Academy's orbital platform. Marcus had been working here for 18 months, and in all that time, Kethren had never once addressed him by name. Right away, Marcus replied, his voice carrying the practiced tone of someone who'd learned to make themselves invisible through sheer normalcy. He wheeled his cleaning cart toward the indicated area, the squeaky wheel providing a steady rhythm that had become the soundtrack to his days. The thing about being a janitor in a place like this was that people forgot you existed. Conversations flowed around him like water around a stone. State secrets, personal dramas, academic rivalries, all of it passed through his ears while he pushed his mop and emptied trash bins. Do you even understand what you're looking at? Kethren continued, his three eyes fixed on Marcus with undisguised contempt. That's the gravitational research station where we're pioneering technology that will reshape faster-than-light travel. Of course, I wouldn't expect someone of your limited capacity to comprehend such concepts. Marcus began cleaning the portal with methodical precision. Through the transparent aluminum, he could see the research station Kethren mentioned. What the arrogant student didn't know was that Marcus had helped design the containment systems for those very gravitational field generators. That was back when he went by a different name, held a different rank, and had security clearance that would make most government officials nervous. Fascinating, Marcus said, applying cleaning solution to remove what appeared to be nose prints from some curious first-year students. All those spinning rings and energy collectors. Must be complicated. Complicated? Kethren's voice rose an octave. It's a masterpiece of engineering. The gravitational field manipulation alone requires calculations that would overwhelm most organic minds. The safety protocols are so advanced that they have 17 different fail-safes built into the primary containment matrix, Marcus finished quietly, not looking up from his work. Including a manual override that requires biometric confirmation from at least 3 senior staff members. The silence that followed was heavy enough to bend spacetime. Marcus continued cleaning, though he could feel Kethren's stare boring into his back. He'd said too much. Old habits died hard, especially when someone was spouting technical nonsense about systems you'd helped create. How do you know about the containment protocols? Kethren's voice had dropped to a whisper. That information is classified at the highest levels. Marcus straightened up, wringing out his cleaning cloth with practiced efficiency. Same way I know that Professor Valdris has been falsifying his research data for the past 6 months, or that the Academy's supposedly impenetrable security system has a backdoor that any decent hacker could exploit in under 20 minutes. This wasn't entirely true about the security system. It would take a good hacker at least 30 minutes. But Marcus had learned that precision wasn't always as effective as dramatic effect. Kethren's crystalline features had shifted from their usual bright blue to a darker, more troubled shade. That's impossible. Our security measures are beyond anything a human could understand. Maybe, Marcus said, returning to his cleaning cart. Or maybe people see what they expect to see. Ever notice how invisible service workers become? We're just part of the scenery, moving around, listening, learning. Amazing what you can pick up when everyone assumes you're too stupid to understand what they're talking about. He began pushing his cart down the corridor, leaving Kethren standing by the portal with his mouth hanging open. This was dangerous territory. Marcus had spent months building his cover as a simple, unremarkable human doing menial work. But sometimes the arrogance got to him. Sometimes he couldn't resist showing these entitled alien students that humans were more than they appeared to be. As he rounded the corner into the next section, Marcus caught his reflection in a polished wall panel. Gray coveralls, worn boots, tired eyes, he looked exactly like what he was supposed to be. A middle-aged human who'd found steady work in maintenance and was grateful for it. But underneath the carefully constructed facade, Marcus Webb was something else entirely. His real name was classified. His service record was sealed. His former colleagues believed he was dead, killed in action during a covert operation that officially never happened. The truth was simpler and more complicated than that. Marcus Webb had chosen to disappear, to become invisible in the most literal way possible. Sometimes the best place to hide was in plain sight, and sometimes the most dangerous people were the ones everyone ignored. He'd been at the academy for over a year now, and no one suspected a thing. Not the students, not the faculty, not even the security staff who ran background checks that barely scratched the surface of his manufactured identity. But as Marcus continued his rounds, cleaning and maintaining the halls where the galaxy's future leaders studied, he couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully constructed invisibility was about to be tested. Something was coming. He could feel it in the way conversations stopped when he entered rooms, in the increased security patrols, in the subtle tension that seemed to hang in the air like ozone before a storm. Marcus Webb had hoped his fighting days were behind him. But as he'd learned during his years of service, hope was a luxury that soldiers couldn't afford. The academy's corridors stretched ahead, pristine and peaceful. For now. Part 2, Shadows of Command. Commander Thorne's office sat at the apex of the academy's administrative tower, its panoramic windows offering a view of 3 different star systems. The office reflected its occupant, precise, organized, and intimidating to those who didn't know better. What most visitors didn't realize was that every piece of furniture, every decorative element, every seemingly casual placement of objects served a dual purpose. Beauty and function, just like the man himself. Thorne stood with his back to the door when Marcus entered, still wearing his maintenance coveralls and carrying a toolkit that looked appropriately worn. To any observer, this would appear to be a routine maintenance call. The Academy's environmental systems required constant attention, and janitors often worked directly with administrative staff to coordinate repairs. "Close the door, Marcus," Thorne said without turning around. His voice carried the same authority it had 15 years ago when Marcus had first served under him in the Terran Defense Corps. "Activate privacy mode." Marcus touched a hidden panel beside the door frame, and immediately the room's ambient sounds shifted. To anyone monitoring from outside, they would hear only the routine hum of environmental system diagnostics. The technology was human-made, integrated so seamlessly into the Academy's alien systems that even the most sophisticated surveillance couldn't detect it. "It's been a long time, Commander," Marcus said, setting down his toolkit and straightening to his full height. In an instant, the submissive posture of a maintenance worker vanished, replaced by the bearing of a man who'd once held the rank of lieutenant colonel. "Not long enough, apparently," Thorne replied, finally turning around. Age had touched his temples with silver, but his eyes remained sharp as laser sights. "I'd hoped you could stay buried deeper than this. Your conversation with the Zephyrian student has created ripples." Marcus wasn't surprised. In a place like this, everything was monitored, analyzed, catalogued. Kethryn was being particularly obnoxious about human intelligence. "Sometimes the cover requires maintenance." "Does it?" Thorne moved to his desk, activating a holographic display that showed Marcus's personnel file, his real one, not the carefully constructed identity he'd been using. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like rusty operational instincts. You've been out of the game too long, Webb. You're getting sloppy." The criticism stung because it was accurate. Marcus had felt it himself, the growing difficulty in maintaining his facade, the increasing temptation to show these alien students what humanity was really capable of. The cover has served its purpose. Intelligence gathering has been comprehensive. I've documented security weaknesses, identified potential threats, mapped communication networks. And now you've compromised yourself with a display of knowledge that no janitor should possess, Thorn interrupted. The Zephyrian Empire has very sophisticated intelligence networks. If they start digging into your background, even our best fabricated records might not hold up under deep scrutiny. Marcus approached the desk, studying the holographic displays that showed various Academy statistics, security reports, and what appeared to be threat assessments. Is that why you pulled me in? Because of one arrogant student? No. Thorn's expression darkened. I pulled you in because we have a bigger problem. Show him, Nexus. The room's artificial intelligence responded immediately, replacing the personnel files with tactical displays. Good evening, Lieutenant Colonel Webb. Displaying current threat assessment for Nexus Prime Academy. The holographic images made Marcus's blood run cold. Surveillance footage from various locations around the Academy showed figures moving in ways that were almost human but not quite. They wore the uniforms of maintenance staff, security personnel, even some faculty members, but their movements had a fluid quality that set off every alarm bell in Marcus's trained mind. Infiltrators, Marcus said, his voice flat with recognition. Shapeshifters, to be precise, Thorn confirmed. The Kithra Collective has been placing operatives throughout the Academy for the past 3 months. We estimate at least 12 individuals, possibly more. They're here for something specific, and our intelligence suggests they're preparing to make their move within the next 48 hours. Marcus studied the footage more carefully. The Kithra were notorious throughout the galaxy for their ability to assume the physical characteristics of other species, but they had tells, subtle inconsistencies in behavior, movement patterns that didn't quite match their assumed identities. What's their target? We believe it's the gravitational research project your new friend Catherine was bragging about, Thorn said. The technology has military applications that could shift the balance of power in 3 different sectors. The Kithra have been trying to acquire it through conventional means for months. This suggests they've decided on a more direct approach. And my cover? Blown or about to be. Either way, it's no longer useful. Thorn moved to the window, looking out at the research station visible in the distance. Which brings us to why you're really here. I need you to do what you do best, Marcus. I need you to become invisible again, but in a different way. Marcus felt a familiar sensation, the shifting of mental gears that occurred when operational parameters changed. His 18 months of careful, methodical intelligence gathering had been preparation for something like this, though he hadn't known it at the time. What are my parameters? Flexible. The students and faculty can't know there's a threat, panic would make them more vulnerable, not less. The shapeshifters can't know we've identified them, they'll accelerate their timeline and become unpredictable. And our official security forces can't handle this kind of threat without creating an interstellar incident. So you need someone who doesn't officially exist to handle a threat that we can't officially acknowledge. Marcus nodded slowly. Just like old times. Not quite like old times, Thorn said, turning back to face him. This time, you're not just protecting human interests. There are students here from 47 different species, representing some of the most powerful civilizations in known space. If something happens to them, it won't just be an incident, it'll be a war. The weight of that responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders like a familiar coat. Heavy, but comfortable in its familiarity. I'll need equipment. Access codes. Background intelligence on the infiltrators. Already prepared. Thorn gestured to Marcus's toolkit, which contained considerably more than cleaning supplies. Your maintenance access gives you unrestricted movement throughout the facility. Your cover identity remains intact as far as the general population knows. And your operational authority is whatever you need it to be. Marcus picked up the toolkit, feeling the weight of weapons and equipment hidden beneath its mundane exterior. Any other assets I should know about? One, Thorn said. But I'm hoping you won't need backup. This is a stealth operation, Marcus. Clean, quiet, no trace. The kind of mission that never happened. Understood. Marcus moved toward the door, then paused. Commander? Why didn't you warn me about the shapeshifters when they first arrived? Thorn's smile was cold and sharp. Because I needed to see if they could identify you. Turns out our invisible janitor is still invisible, even to professional infiltrators. That's going to be their first mistake. What's their second mistake? Assuming that humans are as harmless as we appear to be. Part 3, The Hunter's Game. The maintenance tunnels beneath Nexus Prime Academy formed a labyrinth that few beings ever saw. Miles of corridors lined with power conduits, atmospheric processors, and waste management systems created a hidden world beneath the polished halls where future galactic leaders studied. For 18 months, Marcus had mapped every inch of this underground network, memorizing access points, emergency routes, and surveillance blind spots. Now, crouched in a junction that connected 3 major tunnel systems, Marcus watched as his carefully gathered intelligence proved its worth. On the small tactical display built into his toolkit, red dots moved through the academy above him, the Kythera infiltrators beginning their final approach to the gravitational research facility. Through his earpiece, he heard the routine chatter of night shift security guards, unaware that 3 of their number were imposters. The shapeshifters had chosen their moment well. It was 0347 hours, the dead time when most students were asleep and faculty were either in their quarters or buried in late-night research. Minimal witnesses, maximum access. Marcus activated his comlink, establishing an encrypted connection to Commander Thorn's office. Overwatch, this is Phantom. I have visual confirmation on 8 targets moving toward the research sector. Request permission to engage. Negative, Phantom, came Thorn's voice, distorted by military-grade encryption. Intelligence suggests they have a 9th operative we haven't identified. Observe and report until all assets are accounted for. Above him, through a maintenance grate, Marcus could see the pristine corridor of Level 7, the restricted access floor that housed the Academy's most sensitive research projects. Emergency lighting cast long shadows, and the silence was broken only by the soft hum of environmental systems. That silence shattered when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in immediately, bathing everything in the red glow of backup systems. Through his earpiece, Marcus heard the confusion of security personnel as they tried to determine if this was a system malfunction or something more serious. They would discover the truth soon enough. Phantom, we have a problem, Thorn's voice crackled through the comm. The power disruption wasn't part of their infiltration. We're reading massive energy signatures from the research station itself. Something's gone wrong with the gravitational field generators. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. The research station operated on principles that pushed the boundaries of known physics. If the containment systems failed, the resulting gravitational anomaly could tear the Academy apart at the molecular level. Suddenly, the Kythera infiltration seemed like a secondary concern. Overwatch, are we looking at a sabotage scenario or system failure? Unknown. The station's automated systems show normal parameters, but our external sensors are detecting gravitational fluctuations that shouldn't be possible with current containment protocols. Through the grate above him, Marcus saw figures moving with purpose down the corridor. In the emergency lighting, their shadows seemed to shift and flow in ways that confirmed his suspicions. The Kythera operatives were using the power disruption as cover, just as he would have done. But something was wrong with their movement patterns. Instead of heading toward the research facility as expected, they were moving toward the residential sections where students and faculty were sleeping. This wasn't a theft operation, it was something far worse. Marcus made a decision that went against his orders and 15 years of operational training. He activated his general communication system and broadcast on all frequencies, "Attention all Academy personnel. This is a security alert. Remain in your quarters and activate emergency lockdown procedures immediately. This is not a drill." The response was immediate. Through his surveillance feeds, Marcus watched as corridor blast doors began sealing, emergency barriers activated, and the Academy's population moved to secure positions. It would make his job harder, but it would also protect innocent lives. "Phantom, what the hell are you doing?" Thorne's voice was sharp with anger. "You've compromised the operation." "The operation parameters changed, sir. They're not here for the technology, they're here for the people." Marcus was already moving, climbing through the maintenance shaft toward level 7. His toolkit had been designed to look innocuous while containing enough firepower to handle a small war. As he moved, he activated various systems, weapons, surveillance, communications gear that would have made most Special Forces units envious. Emerging into the corridor through a service panel, Marcus found himself face to face with his first target. The figure wore the uniform of a senior security officer, but its eyes held an otherworldly intelligence that immediately marked it as Kythera. In the split second before it could react, Marcus understood what he was really dealing with. "You're not infiltrators," he said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd faced death enough times to be comfortable with it. "You're hunters." The shapeshifter smiled, and for a moment its human disguise flickered, revealing something that belonged in nightmares. "Very good, human. We wondered how long it would take your species to realize the truth. The Academy isn't our target, it's our hunting ground." Marcus's hand moved to his weapon, but the creature was faster than human reflexes should have allowed. It struck him with force that sent him crashing into the wall, and for a moment his vision went dark. When it cleared, he was staring up at something that had abandoned any pretense of human appearance. The Kythera in its natural form stood 8 feet tall, with limbs that seemed to bend in too many directions and skin that shifted like liquid mercury. Its eyes were black holes that seemed to pull light into them, and when it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that made Marcus's teeth ache. "Do you know what we are, little soldier?" it asked, circling him like a predator toying with wounded prey. "We are what your species calls apex predators. But we don't hunt for food or territory. We hunt for the thrill of matching ourselves against worthy opponents." Marcus struggled to his feet, his hand finally finding the grip of his sidearm. "And you think Academy students make worthy opponents?" "Not the students," the creature said, its laugh sounding like breaking glass. "The protectors. The hidden guardians. The ones like you who think they can stand against us." It leaned closer, and Marcus could smell something like ozone and burnt metal. "We've been watching you, Marcus Webb. Watching you pretend to be harmless while carrying the skills of a killer. You're exactly what we came here to hunt." Understanding hit Marcus like a physical blow. The infiltration, the timing, even his own blown cover, it had all been orchestrated. The Kythera weren't here to steal technology or take hostages. They were here for him. "How long have you known?" "Since the day you arrived," the creature replied. "Did you really think you could hide from us? We can smell the death on you, human. We can sense the violence that lurks beneath your carefully constructed facade. You're a predator trying to pretend to be prey, and that makes you the most interesting hunt of all." Marcus raised his weapon, but even as he did, he could hear movement in the corridors around him. More of them, closing in from multiple directions. They'd isolated him, cut off his escape routes, and turned the Academy's own security systems against him. "The gravitational research station," he said, pieces falling into place. "You're going to use it as bait. A catastrophic failure that requires immediate evacuation," the Kythera confirmed. "Chaos, confusion, and in the middle of it all, you'll have to choose. Save the innocent lives, or save yourself. Either choice leads to a hunt worthy of our talents." The emergency lighting flickered, and Marcus could see shapes moving in the shadows at both ends of the corridor. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and completely cut off from backup. In 18 months of careful preparation, he'd never anticipated this scenario. But Marcus Webb hadn't survived this long by giving up when the odds turned against him. He activated his comlink one more time. "Overwatch, this is Phantom. Requesting immediate activation of Protocol 0. The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then Thorne's voice came back, stripped of all emotion. Phantom, confirm request for Protocol 0 activation. Confirmed, sir. The gloves are coming off. Part 4, Protocol 0. The transformation began in Marcus's mind first, a mental switch that he'd hoped never to flip again. Protocol 0 wasn't just a set of tactical procedures, it was a complete recalibration of priorities, rules of engagement, and acceptable losses. It was the difference between a soldier and a weapon. As the Kithara hunter circled him in the emergency-lit corridor, Marcus felt 15 years of careful self-control evaporating like morning mist. The janitor's coveralls suddenly felt like costume, the submissive posture like an uncomfortable mask he could finally discard. Overwatch, Protocol 0 is active, he said into his comlink, never taking his eyes off the shapeshifter. All safety protocols are suspended. Civilian protection remains priority 1, but collateral damage parameters are now flexible. Through his earpiece came a voice he hadn't heard in over a decade, crisp, professional, and carrying the authority of someone who'd once been his equal in the field. Phantom, this is Control. Lieutenant Hayes online and managing your tactical support. Good to have you back, old friend. Marcus smiled, and for the first time in 18 months, it wasn't the tired expression of a maintenance worker. It was the predatory grin of someone who'd been born for this kind of work. Control, I need a full tactical package. Building schematics, enemy positions, and whatever toys you've got hidden in my toolkit. Already uploaded to your display. You've got 9 confirmed hostiles, but I'm reading energy signatures that suggest at least 3 more. They've compromised the Academy's main security system, but the maintenance network is still under our control. The Kithara hunter stopped its circling, apparently sensing the change in its prey. You think calling for help will change the outcome, human? Your species' capacity for self-deception never ceases to amaze us. Actually, Marcus said, ejecting the power cell from his sidearm and replacing it with something considerably more destructive, I was just letting my friends know that playtime is over. The weapon that emerged from his toolkit looked nothing like standard security equipment. It was sleek, matte black, and hummed with barely contained energy. When Marcus raised it, the Kithara's confidence flickered for the first time. Plasma disruptor, military grade, Marcus explained conversationally. Designed specifically for shapeshifters and other entities that think biology gives them an advantage. Want to see how it works? He didn't wait for an answer. The weapon discharged with a sound like tearing silk, and the corridor filled with coherent energy that turned the Kithara's liquid mercury skin into something considerably more solid. The creature screamed, a sound that existed in frequencies human ears weren't meant to process, and crashed to the floor. Control, first target down. Moving to secure the research facility. Negative, Phantom. New intelligence suggests the facility is a trap. They want you there. We're reading massive gravitational fluctuations that could tear the station apart if you trigger their contingency. Marcus was already moving, his maintenance access allowing him to bypass the sealed blast doors that would have stopped anyone else. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of the wounded Kithara regenerating, pulling itself back together with the stubborn persistence of a species that had evolved to survive almost anything. Then we don't go to them, Marcus said, activating wall panels that revealed weapons caches he'd spent 18 months secretly installing. We make them come to us. Control, I need you to feed false information through the security network. Make them think I'm heading for the research station while I actually move to intercept them in the residential sectors. Already done. You've got a clean corridor to level 4, but after that you're going to have company. They're not falling for the deception completely. Marcus moved through the academy like a ghost made manifest, using service corridors and maintenance shafts that allowed him to bypass the main routes entirely. The building's blueprint existed in his mind with perfect clarity, 18 months of memorizing every detail now paying dividends he'd never expected to need. On level 4, he encountered his second Kithara. This one had assumed the appearance of Professor Valdris, the Centaurian physicist whose research Marcus had been monitoring for months. But where the Real Valdris moved with the careful precision of someone who spent his days working with dangerous energies, this impostor carried itself with predatory grace. "You're not going to save them, you know," it said, not bothering to maintain its disguise completely. Its voice carried Valdris's accent but none of his warmth. "Even if you stop us here, there are others. The hunt will continue until we've tested ourselves against every worthy opponent your species can produce." Marcus emerged from the maintenance shaft behind the creature, his plasma disruptor already charged. "Here's the thing about apex predators," he said, pressing the weapon against the base of the shapeshifter's skull. "There's always something higher up the food chain." The second discharge lit up the corridor like a miniature star going nova. When the energy dissipated, there was nothing left but scorch marks on the walls and the faint smell of ozone. "Control, second target eliminated. How many more?" "Reading 7 confirmed hostiles still active, but Phantom, we have a problem. The gravitational research station isn't just bait, they've actually destabilized the containment field. We're looking at a cascade failure that could create a micro-black hole in the heart of the Academy." Marcus felt ice water flow through his veins. A gravitational cascade failure would kill everyone in the Academy, regardless of species or the blast doors that were supposed to protect them. The Kithra hadn't just set a trap, they'd created a doomsday scenario. Time to containment failure? 18 minutes, assuming the degradation continues at current rates. But if they trigger their contingency, we could be looking at total collapse in under 5. Marcus changed direction, abandoning his plan to hunt the remaining shapeshifters in favor of reaching the research station. Protocol 0 was about acceptable losses, but some losses were never acceptable. "Control, I'm going to need everything you've got. Full tactical support, override codes for the research facility, and whatever experimental gear you've been saving for a special occasion. Phantom, if you go in there alone, you'll be walking into exactly the trap they've set for you." "I know," Marcus said, checking his weapons one final time as he approached the high-security sector that housed the Academy's most dangerous research. "But sometimes the only way to spring a trap is to step into it deliberately." The corridor ahead was bathed in the ominous red glow of emergency lighting, and through the reinforced windows, Marcus could see the research station spinning slowly against the backdrop of space. Energy crackled around its gravitational field generators, and even from a distance, he could see that something was terribly wrong with the containment systems. In 18 minutes, everyone he'd spent the last year and a half protecting would be dead unless he could stop a catastrophe that had been designed specifically to force him into an impossible choice. Marcus Webb adjusted his grip on his weapons and stepped forward into the trap. After all, some hunts were worth the risk.